and didn't realize that our wonderful station manager, Lena, had actually arrived. So she's there smiling at me thinking, oh, I'm going to see to you later on. But it's lovely to be back on the Peterborough airwaves for Salam Radio 106.2 FM. I am Dr Shabina Qayyum, a GP local to Peterborough who works at Central Medical Centre in the city, in the heart of this city. It's got more than 13,000 patients, and quite frankly, it's the best practice going. I thought I'd give him a shout out. So how are you all doing? I hope you're soaking up the wonderful vitamin D that we're having, courtesy the sunshine that we've had over the last 2 days. Spring is upon us. Positive days ahead. We've all got to be positive. I'm sure you agree. And I hope that you're going to enjoy this show, because it's going to be one heck of a wonderful show full of information, which is what we like to do here on Salam Radio. And without further ado, what I am going to say is that if you want to join in the conversation, it would be great if you could call us on 01733 602 133, or you could text us on the WhatsApp number 07111191062. You can email us at studio@salamradio.co.uk, and we are Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and everything else that's live. So it's great to have your company. And before I start, I want to give a shout out to this little boy called Ismail. And the reason why I'm going to give a shout out to Ismail, and he knows very well who he is, he lives on Cromwell Road, is because I was out and about last week on the weekend, and this little one was washing his daddy's car all by himself. And he was so polite. He looked immaculate in his little tracksuit bottoms and his hoodie, and he really was paying great attention to detail. So I looked at him, I said hello, and he said hello back. And he said to me that he knew that I was going to give him a shout out. But yes, he said to me that he would appreciate and he would be listening to this show. So if you're listening, Ismail, this shout out is for you. Now, I've got a very special guest today, and we're going to have a lovely, relaxing, holistic, naturopathic show about well-being, wellness, good health, immunity, everything that's positive. And I'm telling you, I have got one powerful lady with me now. She's powerful, she is tall, she is resilient, she is beautiful, she is full of knowledge. And I am so privileged to have her on my show. And I'm also more privileged to call her a friend, because that's exactly what she is. She's a 1 in a million lady, and she's one of the toughest ladies that I know in Peterborough. In fact, you wouldn't want to meet her in the middle of the night on 3 o'clock on an alleyway, because you don't mess with this lady. She is my very wonderful friend, Yasmin Sadiq. Assalamu alaikum, Yasmin.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for that introduction.
I tried to think, it wasn't
amazing.
It wasn't apt enough. There aren't words in which I could say.
I'm very humbled. Thank you very much.
But you are very inspirational, Yasmin. You honestly are. I obviously follow you. I see the work that you've been doing throughout the year. I follow you on Instagram as well. Would you like to tell our audience a little bit about what you do, what your accolades are? I tried to fit them in that little Facebook post, but do tell us, do share with the listeners of Salam Radio today what it is that you do.
Okay, so I'm a personal trainer and nutritionist, so a lot of people might have seen me at the gym. I'm also a naturopath and a nutritional therapist, but my specialities are in functional medicine. Sorry, this way?
Oh, to your left, please.
Left. Okay. I enjoy everything about health, fitness, and I encourage people of all cultures to get involved with it.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. And you've spoken about holistic health. To be honest, it is so very important for us to be having a look at the scope of naturopathic medicine. I think has made strides in the last few years. And it's because of these strides that we've made that we've learned so much, haven't we, about the place of naturopathic medicine. In fact, it's been now it's become part of the medical school curriculum, rightly so. And with the research that's going on, we're finding out more about the benefits that one can reap from good health gained from natural things. Is this something that anybody can enter into?
Yeah, of course. I think it's kind of the same as if you were wanting to learn about it or do a degree in it, you would have to do biomedicine, which is something that doctors do as well, and then go into a specialism. So that would be in whichever natural part of health you wanted to go into. So there's many different branches, and naturopathy kind of covers it all. So under this umbrella, you have homeopathy, you have traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, iridology, to name a few.
And I think acupuncture as well. Is this just a story that I want to share? And I'm sure that you'll be intrigued by this. That I had a lockjaw, which was a horrible, very painful condition, actually. I could not open my mouth or eat as much as I wanted to, because actually one of my muscles in my jaw had gone into spasm. And I tried everything that I possibly could, anti-inflammatories, steroids, etc. And it was only until one of the MaxFac surgeons, who's undergone an additional course in acupuncture, applied a bit of acupuncture to the same muscle, that one day, after 2 weeks of having the treatment, without any sort of, warning whatsoever, I felt a sort of a release of pressure, and I was able to eat. And that was for 2 years I stayed like that, and it was debilitating, actually. It was it had quite an emotional impact on me as well. So there are definitely, there's a lot in the literature about how complementary therapies, etc., and they're used a lot in physiotherapy schools as well. I think there is a place to say that we need a lot more of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's where integrative medicine comes into play, just like that doctor who'd done the additional course. So it's kind of bridging the gap between natural medicine and allopathic medicine, which is the normal type of medicine that your GP will practice. And often the GPs don't get the time, unfortunately. So it's the system as well that needs a bit of work. But now I think there's more referrals to other sources where they can get help and try to find the root cause of the problem and get the body back in balance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just to name one of my colleagues, Dr Rukeya, actually does a bit of naturopathic and alternative medicine as well. And she bases her management on exactly the same ethos to find out what the root cause is. And you're absolutely right when you say that it's important to find out what the root cause is so we can address any lifestyle factors, for example. And would you be able to describe a typical individual who would be looking for help that comes to you? So what type of clientele do you actually see?
Yeah, so often it tends to be people who are quite stuck and are really not getting any resolvement with their health, and so then they start exploring themselves. They either start Googling or they'll start looking at alternative therapies. But for example, IBS is a big one that goes into IBD, so irritable bowel syndrome. Often it's called a syndrome because it's a collection of symptoms that doesn't have one cause, but it's actually quite manageable by dealing with the gut and healing the gut, and using different therapies to do that, but not just giving a tablet that's going to bring the stomach acid down, because that can cause other issues and side effects. So we're kind of looking to put the body back in balance. And for example, another one would be polycystic ovarian syndrome, so hormonal issues with women. Often women who are coming to the gym can't lose weight, and they have tried exercise, and often people say to them, well, you're not trying hard enough, and you're not eating right. But there are that when it comes to women, there's that hormonal imbalance that they might have, and again, it's called a syndrome because it's a collection of symptoms and it varies from person to person. But when we explore further, it could be that they have estrogen dominance, or they're not detoxifying estrogen properly, which then manifests as higher androgens in the body. So it could be anything really, and we just have to explore every different part of the body, because we believe that all the parts of the body link together. So the gut is highly connected with the brain because they both have the same nervous tissue that surround them. And that's why if your gut is not in a good place, then you're not going to release that serotonin and your brain isn't going to function properly. You're going to have brain fog.
Yeah. And it's fascinating what you're saying, Yasmin, because I've noticed over the last few years with increasing responsibilities, I used to be the type of individual, I think it comes to you after a certain age, because there's a lack of, number one, conscious looking after yourself in a way that should be. And then you have life factors which catch up on you. And then all of a sudden you're faced with these plethora of symptoms like headaches, stress, and bloating, for example.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what on earth has gone wrong? So you're right with that. And I completely understand where you're coming from. How can an individual like myself reset themselves? What would be the process? What type of, not specific advice, but what sort of plan do you have for these type of patients that come to you? Because I too think that there is a room for, obviously, medicine, where you have investigations, etc. But we always are taught as doctors to really give home messages of lifestyle modification advice, and it's really important to have an in-depth understanding of that. I'm realizing the relevance of lifestyle modification and its importance to people, and it would be good if we had more training on this, quite frankly, more time to deal with patients.
I think it's that aspect that often doctors don't have enough nutrition training as well, and just understanding how nutrition can heal the body and also promote health and also promote disease. And if we work on that first, you're setting the foundations, and people are going to be less ill generally. But like what you said before, what would be the process? Or even, when you said that you work so hard and then eventually something hits you. Often I find with my clients that they'll be fine, they'll be carrying on with their life, even though they'll have had lots of stresses, but they'll have one big trauma, and then that will manifest in their body as an autoimmune condition. And almost every time you can kind of see that timeline of where it happened, and it's just sort of exploring what systems are under stress and how we can rebalance them. So if it's certain nutrients they need, if it is, for example, acupuncture, if it is some cognitive behavioral therapy, or if we need to do some further blood testing. And often I work with different laboratories, but also with the GP as well. And I think it's great to have that relationship with doctors to investigate and give the client exactly what they need to get their health back on track.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And obviously, immunity is a big thing. I've tried to give talks over the last year, and a lot of it involves some proper information sources so that we know that we are giving the right messages. So I've had lots of patients who are obviously, due to sickness or ill health, that has decreased their ability to bounce back from, say, a viral illness. And what advice would you have for those people that have a sort of a decreased immunity, lack of energy after an illness, an upper respiratory tract illness, for example, in terms of their immunity? What's your general advice to those people?
So we'd look to see why it actually happened, and to see what was that problem that caused the issue that made the immune system come down. Is it that they were lacking in vitamin D? Because we now know that causes a massive issue with our cells that actually protect us, so our natural killer cells, our T cells, and it can be a bit of an immune modulator. So if they're low in vitamin D, that this could be an issue. If they're not getting enough sleep, so it could be really simple things, because not getting enough sleep affects every single body process, and our organs aren't regenerating properly. But in terms of their recovery, we'd look to upping their nutrients. For example, you mentioned upper respiratory tract problems. Magnesium is a really great mineral because it's a bronchodilator, so it actually opens up the airways, and things like nuts and seeds have got them in there. But even putting them on just more of a colourful diet and making sure they're well hydrated, because often people think that you need to be hydrated, you have to drink 8 glasses of water a day, but the reason why is because we need our cells to communicate with one another properly, and if you're not hydrated, that cell-to-cell communication doesn't happen and the body doesn't function properly, and we start to get immune problems.
Yeah.
So it's simple things sometimes.
It is very fascinating, though, and I think that I'd like to definitely learn more about this. And I know that you have been doing some fantastic work when conditions allowed at the Iqbal Centre here in Peterborough. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how that came about, what type of ladies you were seeing, and what the thought process was behind that? Because I saw so many people. In fact, I met somebody who we had met when I came for that talk, and she was thinking about you, and she said, "Send Yasmin my love, I really miss her." So that's the message that you got too.
Oh, that's lovely.
So what was the thought process behind all of what you were doing, and what were your aims for these ladies?
So I've been working with the Iqbal Centre for over a year now, and it started with just exercise classes, and it was ladies from the community, getting them more active, getting them to do more resistance exercises, especially as we age, our bone density decreases, and these are the types of people who are less likely to exercise because of their confidence levels and just the lack of knowledge they've got around it. But just making them feel comfortable, and so we started doing that at the Iqbal Centre, and later on we moved on to nutrition sessions as well. So this was really insightful for them, and just really simple plans and activities with them, and teaching them about how the body works, but it's about empowering the individual to take control of their own health. And just simple things like looking at exactly what is on their plate, and how much protein they're getting a day, and what's actually keeping them full, and the blood sugar levels, and where their nutrients are coming from, because sometimes, unfortunately, in the Asian community, and I've seen this with clients a lot of the time, is that we are keeping the takeaways alive. Now, there's nothing wrong with takeaway, but having it all the time, you've got to think, where are your nutrients coming from? Again, I spoke about the cells, and these trans fats harden the cells, so you can't get the nutrients in and the toxic stuff out. So it's super important to have a balance, and also lifestyle factors and longevity, and talking about different areas of the world where people live longer and the way that their lifestyles are. Do they do vigorous exercise? Not really, but they tend to be in communities, and they tend to have lots of food rich in plant sources. So there's so many different aspects, but I did get quite a few nice messages. I had a lady who messaged me saying that she actually contracted COVID a while later because she had a patient who they weren't wearing the PPE, and she said that she's convinced that she didn't have to go to hospital because she'd used the advice that she had, and she was exercising as well, whereas her husband did. So, when it affects somebody directly like that, it is quite rewarding.
Of course it must be. And actually it's so valuable. And that's, I think, Yasmin, taking these messages is so important, and to put them out to the mass population. I'll tell you why. You've said a couple of key words, and I really want us to focus on this. Fast food. Now, food has become more accessible in fast food outlets, and you're absolutely right. Nobody's discrediting them. However, I take that in conjunction with the Director of Public Health, Liz Robin, and we were having a conversation. This was about a year or two ago, and we were actually monitoring how health outcomes were. It was an actual study that was taking place of health outcomes in the Southeast Asian population. And I can remember her saying to me that I have seen many people in the South Asian community who have never, in the last 3 months, would never have had a piece of fruit. And it struck me then, and it is all too easy to give £1.50 or £2.50 for a 2-piece chicken meal.
Yes, yeah.
Because of the accessibility.
Yeah, 100%. I've heard that so many times.
So it's really important that we get those messages out. And this is what's so valuable about this show and what you are saying. That number one, you have taken the initiative and the insight to want to help the population, and you've got the experience of patients coming to you or clients coming to you, and that you want to talk about this in a good way. and also lifestyle factors as well. But what's happening out of this is that you're getting results through people or clients giving you feedback about how it has impacted upon them. Now, it's so funny that we have around us such accessibility of things that can shut us down. For example, I think it's fascinating that trans fats can harden cells to the extent that they're unable to absorb nutrients. And when we think about vitamin D, we call it a hormone because it impacts on every single cell of the body.
And our DNA as well. It's actually needed for a proper DNA function.
Absolutely. And then you think about all the other processes or diseases or illnesses that can arise out of a mutation of DNA. For example, you have your cancers, you have cells that mutate, and you have your cancers, you have your inflammatory causes. And it's actually fascinating and interesting that about 20 to 30 years ago, when there wasn't such a prevalence of fast food outlets or fast food in general, you really didn't see things like hypothyroidism and diabetes or various forms of cancer. And now inflammatory bowel disease is another one that really does fascinate me.
Yeah, it's
what
really
is
interesting. So I actually was reading a study, and it was about how when the fridge came into society, the IBD was a lot more prevalent, and it just makes us think that maybe we are preserving food for too long. Our bodies can't deal with the unnatural types of food that we're eating, because our bodies recognize things like fruits and vegetables and unprocessed milk, but when we are putting processed things in our body, we're having that inflammatory response because the body's trying to attack it because it sees it as a foreign object, and then you're getting things like leaky gut, and then these are causing problems with skin, it's causing problems with eczema, bone issues, absorption issues, and general fatigue. And then when you're not absorbing your nutrients properly, for example iron, that plays a massive role in thyroid function.
Yes.
And it just continues and continues until you get really sick, and then you're like, well, what can I do? I'm just really ill.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share with you a thyroid story. We've got a guest. I'm just going to put the fader up. And Assalamu alaikum. You are live on Salam Radio and the Body Health and Mind Show.
Hey, walaikum salam. How are you?
I'm fine. Who's speaking, please?
How are you lot? Are you okay?
Alhamdulillah, brother. We are absolutely fine. Please give us your name so that we can...
My name is Mr. Atiq.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, brother Atiq. It's lovely to have you on
Walaikum
board.
salam.
Assalamu alaikum,
How are you,
Atiq.
brother? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, my brother.
I don't ever ring in because my sister Yasmin's on. It had to be done.
Well, aren't we absolutely privileged and lucky to have your presence here on my show?
Nah. You know what, sister? Honestly, you for yourself, you do a fantastic job. May Allah bless you for what you do for the community, what you do for people, that some of the work that you do that's unknown.
Oh,
Allah
bless you.
accept it all, you know. Allah bless you. We got so many nice individuals in the community, and the reason I'm calling is people should really take advantage of this. Yasmin is not only qualified, she knows what she's doing full-heartedly. And I'm talking from experience. There's things that, you know, that she's helped me with my health.
Yeah.
That not even a doctor could have helped me, but she's, you know, done her research. She did what she had to do. From experience, take advantage of this sister.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
and
honestly, when it comes to your health, she's very, very good.
She's amazing. And, you know, it's because of her expertise and value that I feel that we need to utilize it and get it out in terms of messages to the people of Peterborough, because I have great respect for her. And I want to have as much spring in my step as you do when she's finished with me as well. So I'm going to tell you.
Thank you so much, Atiq. I can't actually hear what you're saying, but thank you.
You know,
and I hope you're doing okay, and I hope those supplements and that advice I've given you is working for you.
The advice has been excellent. The supplements are working absolutely fantastic. She's going to make you look 20 years younger. She's got this touch, man. And honestly, she's so good at what she does. And this message goes out to all the sisters out there. Whoever needs help, take advantage and use Yasmin. She's in the community. She knows a lot of stuff. You know, like obviously with our culture, with our backgrounds, with our food that we take. She's not going to mess about. She'll tell you exactly what you need to do. Because, you know, if you look around us now, our health is absolutely disgusting.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And
bad.
it is. And we follow you on Instagram, by the way. So it's just sort of reminded me, popped in my head that absolutely, whatever we see, the credit goes to Sister Yasmin.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you so much, Atik. You've done a lot yourself, and you know, you've got yourself there mentally, and you've been working really hard with your exercise as well. So, you know, but I really appreciate it, and you know, it just makes me so happy that people actually benefit. Sometimes I think that I put all these posts up and I say all this stuff, and no one actually listens.
No, we do listen.
But I'm really glad that you guys are.
15 seconds.
You know, when we started this, we never gave up, and look at where we all are today.
Wonderful. Look,
Never ever give up. Allah bless you both.
thank
very
you.
much for having me on.
Jazakallah.
Bless you both.
See you after the break, people. Join us again. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Now we're gradually coming out of lockdown. We can finally meet up again outside. But we want to do more than just meet up, don't we? Would a quick hug do any harm? Around 1 in 3 people who have COVID-19 have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. That could be a friend, a relative, it could even be you. It's hard, but don't get too close. Let's take this next step safely. Remember, hands, face, space, and fresh air.
ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله.
Ali is one of those children who, with your assistance, has the honour of being a Hafiz. And that too from only £29 per month. Help UKIM by sponsoring a Hafiz and get rewarded by up to 70 times blessings this Ramadan. For donations, call now or visit ukim.org.
Park Foods now has free car parking. That's right, park for free for up to 1 hour at Park Foods, the largest ethnic supermarket chain in the East Midlands, now open in Peterborough with the biggest ethnic supermarket in Cambridgeshire. Fresh quality fruit, vegetables, dairy produce, halal meat and poultry delivered to us every day. Park Foods carry a huge range of brands from around the world and thousands of products in our daily use household range, and all under one roof for a one-stop shop experience. Shop in comfort and safety in our large, clean and friendly store. Come and try the difference. All government COVID-19 rules followed. Park Foods, 232 Lincoln Road, Peterborough, PE1 2NE. Open 8:30 to 8 Monday to Saturday and 11 to 5 on Sunday. Remember, now park for free for up to 1 hour. No more pay and display. Yet another reason to shop with ease at Park Foods.
If you want to lose weight, it's not about getting it right, but getting started. Healthy changes start with little changes, one way or another. And help you to feel better, inside and out, so you'll be healthier and more able to fight diseases. The NHS has lots of ideas to help you lose weight. Search Better Health. Let's do this.
Bowel cancer screening saves lives. The NHS sends everyone aged 60 to 74 a free home testing kit every 2 years. Using this test is easy and hygienic. Ask your parents and grandparents whether they have completed their screening kit. Find out more by visiting Cambridgeshire and Peterborough ccg.nhs.uk and searching bowel cancer.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
Well, welcome back to Salam Radio and the Body, Health and Mind Show, 106.2 FM. Now, we've come back to a break, but I'd like to take the opportunity to remind our wonderful listeners that we will be going for an Azan break from 1936 to 1940. And in that time, I think I've got the wonderful Yasmin Sadiq, the wonderful, powerful Yasmin Sadiq, sister of mine, a great friend as well, who is a holistic well-being practitioner, naturopathic practitioner as well, and a personal trainer, and she's absolutely fabulous. And as we heard before the break, Brother Atiq had phoned us up, and he had described with real zeal and energy how Sister Yasmin had made a difference to his life in terms of holistic well-being approaches, etc. So I think it's really important that we take these things on board, because without implementing exercise and the right kind of diet, we are going to face repercussions of poor health later on. It might be too late to address that, but we've got some questions here so that we can answer until, I think, 1936. Are you ready to go, Yasmin, with these?
Yeah, definitely.
So we've got Shazad Ali, Brother Shazad. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Shazad. And he said, Salam, Yasmin and Shabina.
Assalamu alaikum.
Is it wise, especially for an overweight male or female who is going to join the gym for weight loss, as to what type of question should one be asking, especially if a specific diet is going to be followed, such as the Atkins diet? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so in terms of the questions that you should be asking if a specific diet is going to be followed, all right. So in terms of the Atkins, I think what you have to remember is it going to be sustainable? Can you do it long term? How is it going to benefit your health? How is it going to benefit your life? Is it going to be something that you can continue on after you've lost the weight? Because with Atkins, it's very high protein and really low in carbohydrates. And we need carbohydrates. We need all of our macronutrients. They are there for a purpose. And the body's preferred source of fuel is carbohydrates. And I think that they do get such a bad rep, but it's the sources that we're actually eating. And when you are asking these questions, I think you should take into consideration what the nutritionist or the personal trainer is telling you, and are they putting you on a really restrictive diet? Because remember, we hold all of our toxins in our adipose tissue, our adipocytes, so the cells, our fat cells. So if we're losing weight very quickly, those toxins are going to be released, and we could end up quite ill from that. But also, it's just not something that would last long term. So we've got to think about, how is it going to benefit our health? Are we going to become more ill in the long term? And is it extremely restrictive, that it's not going to be sustainable? And I think that's the worry with all these different types of diets. I just don't believe in them, in all honesty. I think that they can be used as a prescription. For example, the keto diet, it was actually developed for seizures in children, as it works on the neurotransmitters in the brain, and that's really amazing. But in general day-to-day life, we need to think about having a balanced diet, including exercise, and also thinking about our mental health and our mental well-being, because that controls almost everything. If you've got too much stress, that results as excessive cortisol, and in women that turns into excess belly fat in the lower tummy. So women are always complaining about their bellies, but if they would work on their stress rather than doing lots of sit-ups or taking out every single carbohydrate, it might work better for them, because again, cortisol turns into sugar in the body, raising our glycemic index, and then also we're going to get those dips in energy levels.
I think that's a fantastic way of putting it, Yasmin. I've been listening intently because I've been taking it on board, and I can remember once upon a time somebody asking in a group on Facebook about diets, and if I were to cut carbs, would I lose weight? Or perhaps it was megentlely who actually said that no, if you cut carbs then you can lose weight. It was yourself who very sensibly came in and said, well, actually you do need your carbs for energy levels. And then we had quite a constructive discussion on it, and I understand the reasoning behind having carbohydrates for energy levels. And I will admit to the fact that I try to abstain, go down the route of the Atkins diet, abstain from carbohydrates, because my husband's brother in the US had said, cut carbs. We looked at him and he was sort of, wow, you've changed, sort of just looking at you. And he says, you'll feel really bad for sort of a while, but that while just lingered on and on and on. And I can remember actually with no carbohydrates whatsoever, I felt faint. I felt as if I had no get up and go in me. And I felt pretty sick.
I think, yeah, and the other thing is that what happens when people take out the carbohydrates, they say, oh, I've lost all this weight really quickly, I've lost the bloating, but what they don't understand is that carbohydrates actually absorb water to break them down. So we do have a little bit of fluid retention. But if we have the right prebiotic fibre in our gut, then we can break that down properly. But also, again, we're thinking about the sources of carbohydrates.
Wonderful. We've got an azan coming up.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Maghrib Azan. This azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا.
Peterborough's community radio station, Salam Radio, 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. I do love that jingle at the end. Peterborough's Muslim community radio station, Salam Radio 106.2 FM. Now, we were having some great discussion just before the Azan break came on, and it was regarding the types of diet. And Yasmin and I, in this little interval, were talking about excess body fat. Yasmin said something very interesting. Yasmin, you said that cortisol, especially in women, builds up as a result of stress, and then you gain things like extra belly fat, etc. Now, I see a lot of women who will have excess, for example, belly fat, and then you've got, in age, I think, and through menopause and probably approaching menopause, you see middle-aged women who will have excess fat hanging from the arms as well, and often want to do something about it. What's your advice to such women, and going down routes of, say, bariatric surgery, which is a tremendously invasive process, isn't it? In fact, you need psychological intervention if you refer patients for bariatric surgery. So what would be your advice, and how would you approach such a individual?
So in terms of excess belly fat around the tummy, this is actually really, really important, and I think what should be considered more in terms of weight loss is body composition and where the weight is, because that central weight gain is actually your adipocytes, so your adipose tissue, which is called visceral fat. And it actually acts as a hormone, so it disrupts your endocrine system because it starts to change your androgen levels. So women will become more estrogen dominant, which again, like what I mentioned, turns into testosterone, which then results in things like PCOS. So it's really, really important to ensure that the waist to hip ratio is on balance, and also the thing is, when women carry weight more around their hips, it's actually not as dangerous for them, whereas if it's all wrapped around the vital organs, they are really going to suffer. And one thing that we're seeing a lot more of is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because the liver's not dealing with it properly, and it's actually going into the liver and causing cirrhosis, and again, very big in the Afro-Caribbean and Asian communities. So this really does need to be addressed. And when we were talking about the trans fats and the hardening of the cells, something that actually softens those cell membranes is omega-3. When we have the trans fats, it's omega-6. So a lot of us are very omega-6 dominant, so we don't really need more of that, but we need that omega-3 from our oily fish, again, which isn't in the culture to eat it. So it's trying to think of ways that we can think outside the box and introduce those types of foods and recipes that are tasty, and you know, put them in curries. But what you were saying about the bariatric surgery, it's a really, really interesting point, because I was speaking to a nutritionist who meant she works specifically in bariatric surgery and with those sorts of patients, and she said that 90% of them have had some sort of childhood trauma, sexual abuse, and mental trauma. So it stems from something much, much deeper that they want to correct with their bodies. But is this an issue that does result in emotional eating? Yes. But it's a major surgery, and it costs the NHS about £12,000 just for the surgery itself. And people like myself, nutritionists and personal trainers, are trying to prevent that from happening, and also doing it in a healthy way, because we want to ensure that that person can still enjoy food, because when you have that surgery, you're going to be really limited. And I was just speaking to Shabina about what actually happens when your stomach is stapled. It's that top part called the fundus, which is cut off, and that's where your digestive juices are secreted. So if you're losing that, then you can only really have such a small amount and very bland food. So again, how is that going to affect you emotionally? And then, you know, are you going to be able, because food is such a social thing as well.
It is, yeah.
And you can't eat that food, otherwise you're going to be sick. You're also going to have a lack of nutrients, and you have to take vitamins for the rest of your life. And vitamins are still drugs. They still have to be processed by the liver. They still have to be metabolized, and it's all these other implications that we don't think of. And again, that excess skin, I'd suggest in terms of exercise, weight-bearing exercise is probably the best thing, and that doesn't have to be lifting heavy weights. It could be just with bands or body weight, press-ups. It's compound movements using multiple muscle groups together.
Okay, and I think that, you've put it so beautifully well, giving us what the outcomes are of a major surgery as well, because not many people know that. A lot of people don't look into these surgeries and think, right, I'm going to ask my GP to refer me to have bariatric surgery done. And it's a very long process as well. So they've got to go through psychologists, they will understand, and people are fixated on the fact that they're going to look thin, lean and beautiful. And actually, you've had clients, haven't you, who after bariatric surgery have come to you with flaps of skin.
Yeah, hanging off, which then they have to have that surgery to correct it. And again, before you actually start the surgery, they have to lose a certain amount of weight too. So they have to go through that weight loss, and often they do it in an unhealthy way to be able to get the surgery. And then once it's all done and they've lost the weight, their skin starts to sag on their face. They start to look older. They lose the vibrancy of colour in their face. And then I've had clients who've even had their stomach stapled, and then they have they're actually called dog ears that come around the side, so they have to get that fixed as well. But it just becomes an obsession, and I think things like social media and the world that we live in these days of looking at people that look absolutely perfect and filtered is not normal. And we need to be more vocal about it and make sure that we're showing more of ourselves in our raw form and our real form.
Yeah, and it's tremendous, I think, the amount of influence that social media does have in trying to paint a very ideological picture. I mean, if we have a look at social media now, there are so many different forms. Instagram, you've got Snapchat as well, with so many filters that people will use that you actually don't recognize what they really do look like. And there's nothing wrong with being open and natural and appreciating or embracing what you are. And I saw a video recently of a lady in her 40s who started to have greying hair, and she'd spend money on dyeing it, etc. And one day she came out and she says, no, I want to show people that I can age gracefully and accept who I am. I've got no need to validate myself for people. So there's a massive psychological factor that impacts that. And a lot of it is also responsible for the mental health problems we're seeing in the youth today, aren't we?
Absolutely. I think that everybody wants to look a certain way. They all want to look young and have their eyes pulled back like the filters make them look. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a bit of fun, and as long as you deep down are comfortable with yourself. And I think where the worry is it's really young people that are being affected, that they already have so much stress in their life. They don't need that added pressure of looking absolutely flawless, because as humans, we have pores on our skin. We are different shapes. We don't all look like Kim Kardashian with massive hips, and it's actually unnatural. And trends change all the time of what bodies are going to look like. Remember when it was Kate Moss and the waif-like figure? So it's always changing. And again, like what you said with the lady with the greying hair, just to mention that sometimes that's a zinc deficiency. So
okay.
You cannot be a zinc.
That's useful. Right. On my way home, I shall be investing in some zinc supplements then.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that menopause is like a disease and they're going to die after menopause. But honestly, it's a natural part of life, and you've still got so much more of your life to live, and it's very manageable as well. Using the right lifestyle tools and, again, nourishing the body properly. Something like phytoestrogens, which are found in things like broccoli sprouts, which are about 30 times more potent than broccoli. They are balancing your estrogen levels as they work on the receptors, but they don't actually raise the levels too much. Your body takes what it needs, and that's it. And things like soy, but in its pure form, so not the soy that we're seeing in milk.
Yeah. Okay, that's so fascinating. And the reason why I say it's fascinating is because after the sort of talking about the natural entities, and this might not make any sense at all, but after having our fourth child, I became underactive thyroid, and I wasn't prepared to live like this at all. And I started reading into it and reading into how so many people within the United Kingdom, dealing with them as patients, it's incredible the number of people that have become underactive thyroid. So I started reading it and found that the soils within the United Kingdom are deplete of iodine, and the chemical compounds that's used in fertilizers, etc., there's a chemical excipient in that has exactly the same molecular weight as iodine does.
Yeah.
So when we ingest those vegetables that are deplete of soil, not grown in soil that is deplete of iodine, but in this other chemical excipient, that chemical then binds onto our thyroid receptors. And as a result of that, we're unable to absorb any additional iodine because those receptors have already been taken. And that is when our thyroid gland starts shutting down. And it's an essential gland because it controls all the chemical reactions and the metabolic processes in the body.
Our mood as well.
Yes. And I thought I was taking thyroxine every day, and it was good for me to take thyroxine, but I always found that it was difficult to try and maintain my levels, so that I'd have a brilliant day one day, and one day I just couldn't bring myself.
And weight as what fits into our thyroid gland. So again, they'll take the place. And another thing is radiation. So when we're constantly being exposed to radiation, which is absolutely everywhere, something we can't avoid, is there ways that we can protect ourselves? And rosemary is a really good way. Rosemary cream, rosemary essential oil, you can put it in diffusers.
Wow.
And you can, but in the cream, just put it on your like on your throat or on your temples, and that should help. But again, things like Brazil nuts, so the selenium helps with the thyroid. Sea vegetables, kelp, seaweed, rich in iodine. I'd definitely avoid iodine supplements because they can switch you the other way, and you can become hyperthyroid. So just be a bit careful with that.
Yeah, wonderful advice. Now we've got the last 3 minutes, Yasmin, and we said that we were going to, I've just remembered actually through the debate, because there's so much to talk about, and it's been gorgeous having you on. It's been wonderful having you on. Before I open the floor to you, just to close, what I want to say is that we've had so much positive reception on the show. We've got Prue. Greetings to you, Prue.
Hi, Prue.
And, you know, assalamu alaikum to you, Prue, which means peace be upon you. And what I want to say is that she said that she's one of your clients, and she absolutely is lovely to see you, which is great. And
Thank you so much, Prue.
Lots of positive responses. So, Yasmin, we said at the end that you were going to talk a little bit about how food is being advertised. We spoke about the donut thing. Now, when obviously we have such rates of low immunity as a result of the pandemic, and the advertising around donuts really isn't needed, is it?
No, definitely not.
We've got to put those right messages out there.
Yeah, exactly. I think when I saw that, I just was like, what next? Like, you know, you're promoting immunity in one sense, and then you're giving everybody a free donut. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. And these are, again, big chains. We should be supporting, you know, vegetable growers, our farmers, people who run the markets. And, you know, I think just that would be a better idea. But also being mindful ourselves and not falling into that trap of thinking, hang on, so this is something that's very carb dense in trans fats and all the chocolate on top. Come on, like, it's not healthy for us, is it? And to offer it for free, I think we've just got to be mindful of, you know, balance, and also think about our own health and try to empower ourselves to understand our health. And, you know, the more you know yourself, the more you can be your own doctor in a way, and you can work with people who are trying to help you, because it comes from you in the beginning, and you take that first step.
Wonderful. Oh my God, Yasmin, we have 45 seconds left to the end of the show. You know, it wasn't enough. It really wasn't, because first of all, I'm really honoured to have you, and I'm so thankful to you, and I feel that the world needs to know a little bit more about your knowledge. Not a little bit more, a lot.
Thank you. I feel the same about you, and thank you. I'm honoured to be here.
And it's wonderful to have your friendship, and it's wonderful. And may this knowledge that we have both imparted with goodwill and good intention to the people of Peterborough and beyond be a bais of sadaqah jariyah to benefit people in the name of good health, because you've got some wonderful things to give. And with that, my dear listeners, until next week, Assalamu alaikum from the Body Health and Mind Show.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.